Thank you for joining me, Murray Simpson, and my colleagues, Lisa Harpe and Mike Aamodt, as we share some highlights from our white paper on making salary adjustments following a pay equity study. Lisa, why don't you start us off by explaining the legal context employers must consider when implementing salary adjustments?
I'm glad to do so, Murray. So what can case law tell us about making salary adjustments without violating anti-discrimination laws? Well, we can learn some things from some Supreme Court rulings on the legality of taking voluntary affirmative action. That is, voluntary actions taken in response to identified disparities in employment decisions. Making salary adjustments based on identified pay disparities is similar to making changes to practices such as recruiting to address identified differences in the race or gender composition of one's workforce compared to the available labor market. That's a common analysis conducted by employers, either in accordance with affirmative action regulations or as part of a diversity effort. So under what is known as the Weber-Johnson framework, named for specific Supreme Court cases, the High Court ruled that an employer could implement a voluntary affirmative action program, but only under certain circumstances. These same conditions apply to implementing salary adjustments after conducting a pay equity study that looks to see if there are any race, ethnicity, or sex-based pay disparities. So according to the Weber-Johnson criteria, several questions must be asked to evaluate whether pay adjustments would be legally permissible under Title VII. Questions such as, is the salary adjustment plan justified by the existence of a manifest imbalance? Does it unnecessarily trammel the rights or interests of other employees? Is it designed to eliminate a pay imbalance rather than to maintain a balance? And is the plan narrowly tailored to meet its remedial objective? So it's important to note that the Supreme Court articulated the Weber-Johnson framework not in context of salary adjustments, but instead when considering a voluntary action to correct hiring and promotion disparities. So Murray, perhaps you could shed some light on key lawsuits in which courts assessed whether or not the salary adjustments implemented by an employer addressed a manifest pay imbalance and did so in a narrowly tailored manner that eliminated the imbalance without trammeling the rights or interests of other employees.
Sure, Lisa. What is particularly interesting about these key lawsuits is that each one pitted male faculty against the universities that employed them in disputes over salary adjustments that the universities had granted to the female faculty in one case and to both female and minority faculty in the second case. In the first one, Smith versus Virginia Commonwealth University, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the university's multiple regression analysis failed to include major factors that may explain the higher pay of the male faculty. And such omissions called into question the validity of the regression analysis to establish a manifest imbalance in pay. And that led the Fourth Circuit to rule in favor of the male faculty. The second case, Rudebush versus Hughes, which involved Northern Arizona University, was somewhat different from the first one. Here, white male professors did not appeal the presence of a manifest imbalance in pay by gender and race, but instead argued that the university's salary adjustment plan trammeled their interest by being larger than what was necessary to attain a balance. Because it could not resolve this question as a matter of law, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals remanded the case back to the district court to determine whether the university's salary adjustment plan was more than remedial or actually attained a balance. So Mike, now that we understand the legal context for making salary adjustments, can you share some thoughts with us about best practice strategies for computing salary adjustments?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Now, unfortunately, making salary adjustments isn't as simple as it sounds. But again, what in life is, right?
That's right.
But basically, the first step is to go ahead and set a goal. What is it you're trying to accomplish with your salary adjustments? And one of the goals, for example, could be to just make the group difference non-significant. So if you have a difference between men and women, that difference is no longer statistically significant. Another goal could be that you have people who are outliers. And what you want to do is to make these outliers raise their salary so they become non-outliers. Or the goal could be something else. But the key thing when setting these goals is you really want to have outside counsel, or minimum internal counsel, but certainly outside counsel involved in this process so it keeps it under the attorney-client privilege. Once you set your goals, the next step is to go ahead and choose the appropriate method for making these adjustments. In the ideal world, what you would do is actually use your regression analyses to make those adjustments. But unfortunately, that can't always be the case because the analyses aren't as perfect as we would like. In a situation such as that, what you can do is use things like cohort analyses, you can use relative prediction approaches, or you can use a salary matrix to make the adjustments as well. But this is a process that certainly takes some time and needs some planning.
Well, thanks, Mike. So to draw our conversation to a close, let's each share some final thoughts about practical considerations that our audience should keep in mind when making salary adjustments. So Lisa, why don't you go first?
Sure. So, identifying salary adjustments is one thing, but then there are a lot of other practical things you have to think about. Some of them are the funds available to make those pay adjustments? From whose budget is that going to come? And do the adjustments make sense to the managers who are actually going to implement them?
Mike?
Sure. Earlier I mentioned that there are different ways that you can make salary adjustments. But one of the things I found, and I'm sure you have as well with clients, is that you'll find situations where the client doesn't really want to make an adjustment to a particular person. So it might be, the regression says that person's underpaid, that they're a poor performer, or the amount that the adjustment that you have to make is going to be much greater than the organization's policy. So there's a lot of wiggle room that's involved in these, and sometimes it's not as scientific as we like.
Right. Sometimes they get into internal politics over these issues, and I think those politics are likely to come into play in discussions around the timing of the salary adjustments themselves. Will the adjustments be made at one point in time, or will they be spread over some period of time? Also, will they be included in the annual merit and market adjustment cycle, or will the adjustments be made off-cycle? So if you want to know more about the science, art, and whimsy of making salary adjustments following a proactive pay study, please read our white paper, which you can find on the DCI website. So on behalf of Lisa and Mike, I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.
Take care.